A new discovery. In the vast expanse of the Galactic Empire, a civilization that spanned thousands of star systems, Earth was just another blip on the radar. Empire scout ships, manned by the insectoid Zixrans, had stumbled upon the small blue planet on the fringes of a minor arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Captain Xylox of the scout ship Zixus peered at images of the planet on his view screen. It was an unremarkable world, with large oceans, green landmasses, ice caps at the poles. His mandibles clicked as he sought evidence of a relatively primitive civilization. Sprawling cities, radio wave emissions, fossil fuel usage, and early forays into space travel. Clearly this species, these humans, were far behind the Empire technologically. "This planet called Earth poses no threat to us," Xylox noted in his log. "Its inhabitants are millennia away from becoming a spacefaring civilization, let alone challenging the might of the Empire. Although the biodiversity and resources may be worth cataloging and exploiting, this system is a low priority for conquest." Xylox transmitted his report back to the Imperial capital on Zixran Prime, then ordered his ship to continue its exploration mission to the next star system. Earth and its humans were quickly forgotten as just another primitive species living in ignorance of the greater galaxy. But not long after the scouts departed, a deep space Empire listening post picked up a strange transmission emanating from Earth. The message was text only, translated to Galactic Basic, the common language of the Empire. Its contents were brief yet ominous. "We warned you. Run." The cryptic warning was forwarded to Zixran Prime, where the Empire's leadership convened to determine its meaning and origin. Who had sent this transmission? Was it the humans of Earth? And if so, how could they have been aware of the Empire's existence? More concerningly, what was the nature of this warning? Emperor Xyloth, supreme ruler of the Galactic Empire, dismissed the notion that the primitive humans could pose any real threat. "Whatever this transmission means, it is of no concern to us," Xyloth proclaimed. "The humans are insects compared to the unstoppable power of the Empire. If anything, their impertinence in sending this warning only hastens the need to conquer their world and subjugate their species." Xyloth ordered an invasion fleet to be assembled, consisting of 100 warships bristling with the most advanced weapons the Empire had to offer. This fleet, led by Xyloth's trusted Admiral Zorg, would head to Earth, crush any resistance, and seize the planet for the glory of the Empire. The humans, Xyloth was certain, would be taught the futility of defying the Galactic Empire. As the mighty Imperial fleet set out toward the distant Sol system and its waiting blue jewel of a planet, the humans of Earth remained blissfully unaware of the coming storm. They continued to live their lives, fight their petty wars, and reach for the stars, ignorant that the stars were already home to powers beyond their imagining. A sudden flash of light in the night sky was mistaken by some to be a meteor or comet. In actuality, it was the arrival of the first Zixran warships, entering Earth orbit and assuming positions over the planet's most populous cities. As the people of Earth looked skyward in confusion and awe, the Empire's invasion began in earnest. The Empire strikes. The first indication that something was truly amiss was the simultaneous loss of communications and power across nearly every major city on Earth. From New York to Tokyo, Beijing to Cairo, the lights went out, casting entire metropolitan centers into eerie darkness. The confusion and disarray among Earth's population was only amplified as the first bombardment from orbit began. Brilliant beams of purple plasma rained down through the atmosphere, precision strikes on key infrastructure, power plants, communication hubs, transportation networks, and symbols of human leadership. The plasma beams cut through steel and concrete like a scalpel, sending skyscrapers crumbling to the ground in seconds. Above the burning ruins and fleeing masses, the Zixran fleet hovered menacingly. Admiral Zorg observed the initial stages of the invasion from the bridge of his flagship, the Conqueror. The sleek lines and angular hull of the Conqueror exemplified the asymmetric yet ruthlessly efficient design ethos typical of the Zixran warships. Zorg stood nearly 8 feet tall, his segmented exoskeleton a deep crimson that denoted his high rank. His compound eyes watched live video feeds of the bombardment dispassionately. The initial assault is proceeding as planned. Admiral, Commander's Locks, his second-in-command, reported crisply. We are detecting no coordinated defense against our attack. The humans appear to be in total disarray. Of course they are, Zorg replied contemptuously. They are primitive apes, wielding chemical-propelled kinetic weapons and blustering about with their nuclear toys. They never stood a chance against us. Prepare the troop landers for touchdown. I want our forces on the ground within the next 40 time cycles. By your command, Admiral. Zlox saluted, then moved off to relay the orders. As the Conqueror and its escort ships took up positions over the burning ruins of New York City, swarms of angular landing craft disgorged from their hangar bays. Like angry hornets descending on prey, the landers streaked down through the smoke-choked skies, heading for the surface. Any anti-air defenses the humans attempted to muster were quickly obliterated by the Conqueror's plasma batteries. The landers touched down amidst the rubble and ruin of Manhattan, armored doors opening to reveal the orderly rows of Zixran troopers within. The troopers were a chilling sight, standing 7 feet tall and clad head to toe in angular black battle armor. They carried plasma rifles and moved with ruthless precision and coordination, their insectoid origins still visible in their hunched posture and spindly limbs. As the Zixran troops fanned out through the city streets, rounding up any shell-shocked human survivors, transmissions from the other landing sites confirmed that the Empire was securing its foothold. The great cities of Earth, Paris, Moscow, Rio de Janeiro, Shanghai, were all falling in quick succession. The Terran Defense Coalition, a recently formed global military alliance, tried desperately to mount a response. But their forces, still reeling from the orbital bombardment and armed with weapons that may as well have been sticks and stones against Zixran armor, were steamrolled by the ruthless efficiency of the Imperial advance. Within a matter of hours, the Empire had seized control of over a dozen key locations around the globe. The fires of their orbital bombardment cast an ominous pall over the smoking ruins of human civilization. The survivors, huddling in makeshift shelters and subway tunnels beneath their once great cities, could only watch in despair as the alien invaders marched unchallenged through their streets. On Zixran Prime, Emperor Zelith reveled in the news of the swift conquest of the human world. You see, he boasted to his courtiers, this is what becomes of those who dare warn the Galactic Empire. They shall be crushed like the insects they are. Yet even as the Empire consolidated its hold on Earth, subjugating its defenseless population, some among Xylith's advisors felt an inkling of unease. The mysterious warning that had brought the humans to the Empire's attention in the first place still lingered in their thoughts. Had they overlooked something? Had the primitive humans somehow planned for this? It seemed preposterous. And yet, the ease of their victory over the humans was almost too perfect. In the darkened ruins of Denver, a ragged band of survivors huddled in the basement of a collapsed office building. They represented a cross-section of what remained of the city's population. Men and women, young and old, soldiers and civilians, all were drawn, dirty and desperate. One of them, a tall, wiry woman with steel-gray hair, pulled back into a tight bun, paced back and forth in the dim light. Her name was General Alira Benaran, commander of the North American Division of the Terran Defense Coalition. Just a few short hours ago, she had been responsible for the safety of over 200 million citizens. Now she was leading a ragtag band of survivors in a city laid to waste. "We need to strike back," she said firmly, locking eyes with the tired, frightened faces around her. "The Zixrans think they've beaten us, that we'll simply roll over and accept our subjugation. But we're humans, damn it. We don't give up that easily." A younger man, a private named Soren, looked up at her with a mix of hope and despair. "How can we fight back, General? You saw what their ships did to our cities. Our weapons are useless against them. It's hopeless." Benaran crouched down to his level, her voice low but intense. "Nothing is hopeless, son. We're the human race. We're adaptable, resilient. We'll find a way." She stood up, addressing the whole group. "We need to learn everything we can about these invaders, their weapons, their tactics, their technology. Somewhere, they have a weakness, and we're going to find it and exploit it." She picked up a charred metal rod, a piece of rebar from the collapsed building above them. "This is our world, our home, and we'll be damned if we let some insectoid bastards from the stars take it from us without a fight." Slowly, the expressions on the faces around her began to change, despair giving way to grim determination, fear fading before the first sparks of defiance. They were beaten, bloodied, but unbroken. They were human, and they would fight. Humans fight back. In the weeks following the Zixran invasion, a curious thing began to happen across the occupied territories of Earth. While the majority of the human population remained cowed and compliant under the watchful compound eyes of their insectoid overlords, pockets of resistance began to emerge. It started small, lone individuals or small groups engaging in acts of sabotage and defiance. A Zixran patrol transport would be found crashed in a ditch, its crew dead from precisely aimed gunshots. A cache of plasma rifles would mysteriously go missing from a supply depot. Graffiti depicting crude yet poignant messages of human resistance would appear on the walls of Zixran-occupied buildings. At first, the Zixran leadership dismissed these incidents as minor nuisances, the last gasps of a conquered species. But as the weeks turned into months, and the incidents multiplied in frequency and severity, it became clear that the humans were not as subdued as they had initially appeared. General Benaran's resistance cell had grown from a handful of survivors in a Denver basement to a network of thousands stretching across the western United States. Through a combination of guile, subterfuge, and sheer audacity, they had managed to establish covert lines of communication with other resistance groups around the globe. In the ruins of Paris, a former engineering student named Luc Moreau had rallied a band of resistance fighters specializing in hacking and electronic warfare. Using salvaged human technology and captured Zixran equipment, Moreau and his team had managed to crack some of the lower-level encryption protocols used by the occupiers. This allowed the resistance to sometimes intercept Zixran communications and troop movements. In the sprawling favelas of Rio de Janeiro, a charismatic former street artist known only as Fantasma had assembled a guerrilla force that was proving maddeningly elusive to the Zixran patrols, striking from the labyrinthine slums and disappearing just as quickly. Fantasma's fighters were waging a campaign of constant harassment against the occupiers. And in the bombed-out husk of what had once been Tokyo, a brilliant but eccentric scientist named Dr. Yukio Sato had set up a clandestine laboratory in the city's storm sewers. Dr. Sato and his team were studying captured Zixran technology, trying to unravel its secrets and find ways to turn it against its creators. These resistance cells, and dozens more like them around the world, coordinated through Benaran's network, sharing intelligence, resources, and tactics. They were the seeds of a global human insurgency, fighting back against the Empire with cunning and tenacity. One of the Resistance's greatest coups came 6 months into the occupation, in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains outside Denver. A Zixran convoy, carrying a high-ranking Imperial official, was making its way along a winding mountain road. Hidden in the trees and rocks above, Benaran and her fighters waited in ambush. At a signal from Benaran, the humans attacked. Improvised explosive devices, cobbled together from scavenged Zixran ordnance, detonated under the convoy's armored transports. Plasma fire and rockets rained down from the hills, targeting the disoriented Zixran soldiers as they tried to defend their crippled vehicles. The battle was fierce but brief. The Zixrans, used to the docile compliance of occupied Earth, were unprepared for the ferocity and skill of the human attackers. When the smoke cleared, the convoy lay in burning ruin, and the Resistance had captured its most valuable prize, a live Zixran officer. The captive, a senior logistics coordinator named Zixik, was brought before Benaran in a hidden resistance camp. Despite his situation, the insectoid alien remained defiant. "You fool humans," Zixik spat through his mandibles. "You only bring greater suffering on yourselves by resisting. The Empire is infinite. You are but specks of dust before our might." Benaran regarded the alien coldly. "I think you'll find we're a bit more than that," she said. "We're the specks of dust that are going to choke your precious empire." Under interrogation, Zixik revealed a wealth of information about Zixren supply lines, troop deployments, and command structures on Earth. This intel, distributed through the resistance network, allowed the human fighters to strike with greater precision and effect. Zixren bases were raided for weapons and equipment. Key infrastructure, now revealed, was targeted for sabotage. The occupiers, who had thought their conquest complete, now found themselves harried and stung at every turn. In his command center in New York, Admiral Zorg seethed with growing frustration. The reports of human resistance were becoming impossible to ignore. This was more than just a few isolated pockets of defiance. This was an organized, global insurgency. "Increase patrols in all major population centers," Zorg ordered his subordinates. "Any human caught engaging in acts of resistance is to be made an example of. We will crush this defiance and remind these primitives of their place." But even as Zorg cracked down, the resistance only seemed to grow bolder. Humans who had once cowered now looked at their occupiers with defiance in their eyes. The whispers of rebellion were becoming a roar. On Zixren Prime, Emperor Zilith's advisors fretted over the reports from the occupation. "Your Majesty," one brave courtier ventured, "perhaps we underestimated these humans. Their resistance is proving more troublesome than anticipated." Zilith slammed a clawed fist on his throne, his compound eyes flashing with anger. "Nonsense," he snarled. "They are primitives, savages. Admiral Zorg will deal with them. Earth will be brought to heel, no matter the cost." But even as Zilith raged, a flicker of doubt gnawed at him. The humans were fighting back with a tenacity and resourcefulness that belied their supposed primitive nature. For the first time, the Emperor wondered if conquering Earth would prove as easy as he had assumed. On Earth, the resistance fought on, their determination only growing with each small victory. They had bloodied the nose of the mighty Galactic Empire. Now, they intended to bring it to its knees. Empire's escalation. Admiral Zorg stalked through the corridors of his command ship, his chitinous face twisted in a scowl. Around him, the Zixren crew worked at their stations with a palpable air of tension. No one wanted to draw the Admiral's ire, not when the human resistance had him in such a foul mood. Zorg entered the command bridge, where his senior officers were gathered around a holographic display of Earth. Red markers denoted areas of significant human resistance activity, and there were far too many for Zorg's liking. "This is unacceptable," Zorg snarled, gesturing at the map. "How have we not crushed these primates yet?" Commander's Lox, Zorg's second-in-command, stepped forward, his antenna twitching nervously. "Admiral, the humans are proving more resilient than anticipated. Their resistance cells are scattered, diverse, and adaptable. They strike and then melt away. Our standard tactics are struggling to contain them." "Excuses, Commander. I want results. If our current tactics are insufficient, then we escalate. Bring in the Zixren Elite Guard." A hush fell over the bridge. The Elite Guard were the Empire's most feared and effective fighting force, genetically and cybernetically enhanced to be the ultimate soldiers. They were only deployed in the most dire of circumstances. "As you command, Admiral," Zlox said, bowing his head. Within cycles, the Elite Guard arrived in Earth orbit. Their ships were sleek, predatory things, all sharp angles and bristling weaponry. The Guard themselves were a chilling sight, towering, heavily muscled insectoids, clad in advanced power armor, their compound eyes glowing with a predatory intelligence. The Elite Guard hit the resistance like a hammer blow. They landed in key locations around the globe, targeting the largest pockets of human defiance. Where the regular Zixran troops had been stymied by human tactics, the elite guard cut through them like a plasma scythe. In Paris, Luc Moreau's hacker cell was rooted out and destroyed, their hidden base stormed by the relentless elite. Moreau himself was dragged before a Zixran firing squad and executed as an example. In Rio, Phantasma's guerrillas found themselves outmatched and overrun. Their intimate knowledge of the city's slums, no defense against the elite's advanced sensor tech, and ruthless efficiency. Phantasma was forced to flee into the jungle with the tattered remnants of his force. Even General Benaran's resistance in the American West found itself hard-pressed. The elite seemed to anticipate their every move, crushing their cells and safe houses with methodical brutality. Benaran herself barely escaped capture, watching in despair as the resistance network she had so painstakingly built crumbled around her. Within weeks, the organized human resistance had been shattered, driven into deep hiding or wiped out entirely. The elite guard had done their job with terrifying effectiveness. Earth, it seemed, was pacified at last. On Zixran Prime, Emperor Zilith reveled in the news of the elite guard's success. "You see," he crowed to his courtiers, "no primitive species can stand against the might of the Empire. Earth is ours, and the humans will learn their place." But even as Zilith celebrated, the humans refused to admit defeat. Though their resistance had been broken, their spirit remained unshakable. In the ruins of their once great cities, in the secret places where the Zixran eye could not reach, they gathered, they planned, and they prepared. Dr. Yukio Sato, having barely escaped the destruction of his Tokyo lab, found his way to the tattered remains of General Benaran's resistance in the Rocky Mountains. There, in hidden caves and abandoned mineshafts, he continued his work, probing the secrets of Zixran technology. "The key is in their power systems," Dr. Sato explained to Benaran one evening, his eyes gleaming with a mad scientist's fervor. "Zixran tech all relies on a specific type of crystalline energy matrix. If we can find a way to disrupt that matrix, we might have a chance." Benaran nodded, her face gaunt and hardened by months of constant warfare. "Then that's what we'll do," she said. "We'll find a way to turn their own technology against them." As the remnants of the resistance labored in secret, the rest of humanity endured under the yoke of Zixran rule. The insectoid aliens had begun to reshape Earth to their own ends, constructing towering hive-like structures over the ruins of human cities, harvesting the planet's resources to fuel their ever-expanding empire. Humans were reduced to little more than slave labor, toiling in the factories and mines to serve their Zixran overlords. Any hint of defiance was met with swift and brutal retribution. The elite guard, now a permanent presence on Earth, ensured that humanity remained cowed and broken. But in the hearts of every human, a spark of resistance still smoldered. They had been beaten down, but not broken. They had lost battles, but not the war. And in the secret places of the resistance, a desperate plan began to take shape. They would strike at the heart of Zixran power on Earth. They would find a way to bring down the elite guard and drive the insectoid oppressors from their world. It was a plan born of desperation and defiance, but it was all they had left. The humans had lost everything. Now they had nothing left to lose. A bold plan, deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, in a hidden base carved into the living rock, the remnants of humanity's resistance gathered. They were a motley assortment: soldiers, scientists, hackers, and guerrilla fighters, united by their shared determination to free Earth from Zixran rule. At the center of the gathering stood General Benaran and Dr. Sato, the unlikely duo who had become the driving force behind this last, desperate plan. "We have one chance," Benaran said, her voice carrying through the cavern. "One chance to strike a blow against the Zixrans and turn the tide of this war. It won't be easy. Many of us may not come back. But if we succeed, we can give Earth a fighting chance." She nodded to Dr. Sato, who stepped forward, his slight frame dwarfed by the towering soldiers around him. "The key is the elite guard," he said, his voice high and fast with excitement. They are the backbone of Zixren control on Earth. If we can eliminate them, the rest of the occupation will crumble. He held up a small device, a crystalline matrix pulsing with an eerie blue light. This is a prototype of a weapon I've been developing. It's designed to resonate with the energy matrices that power Zixren technology. In theory, it should be able to overload and destroy any Zixren device in its vicinity, including the elite guard's power armor. A grizzled soldier asked. Dr. Sato nodded. Especially their armor. Without it, they're just overgrown bugs. Powerful, yes, but not invincible. Benaran took over. Our target is the command ship of the elite guard, she said, bringing up a holographic display. It's currently in geosynchronous orbit over what used to be New York. If we can get aboard and detonate Dr. Sato's device, it should take out the ship and every elite soldier on board. A murmur ran through the gathered resistance fighters. It was a bold plan, audacious in its simplicity, but the risks were enormous. How do we get aboard? Fantasma asked, the Brazilian guerrilla leader's face marked by a wicked scar from his last encounter with the elite. Benaran smiled grimly. By walking right in the front door, or rather, by being brought in. The plan was as daring as it was desperate. A small team, led by Benaran herself, and including Dr. Sato, Fantasma, and a handful of the Resistance's best fighters, would allow themselves to be captured by the Zixrens. They would stage a raid on a Zixren supply depot, but intentionally leave clues for the occupation forces to find and prepare an ambush. The Zixrens have been trying to capture Resistance leadership for months, Benaran explained. If they think they have a chance to get me and some of my top lieutenants, they'll take it. And they'll want to bring us to the elite guard command ship for interrogation and execution. It was a gamble, but one they had to take. If it worked, they would be brought right into the heart of the enemy stronghold. From there, they would break free, fight their way to the ship's central power core, and detonate Dr. Sato's device. What about the rest of us? Another Resistance fighter asked. The rest of the Resistance will launch attacks on Zixren bases and installations around the world. Benaran said, we need to keep them distracted and spread thin, so they can't respond effectively when we strike at the heart. It was a plan that required precise timing, incredible bravery, and more than a little luck. But it was the only plan they had. The preparations were made in secret, the Resistance's best tech experts working around the clock to perfect Dr. Sato's device. Benaran and her team trained relentlessly, honing their skills and preparing for the fight of their lives. And then the day came. Benaran and her team staged their raid, making sure to leave evidence of their involvement. As expected, the Zixrens responded in force, the elite guard leading the charge. The Resistance team fought bravely, but allowed themselves to be overwhelmed and captured. As they were dragged before the elite guard commander, a hulking brute named Zaxxas, Benaran felt a thrill of fear and anticipation. The gamble had paid off. They were being taken to the command ship. But the hardest part was yet to come. They had to escape their bonds, fight through an entire ship full of the most deadly soldiers in the Empire, and complete their mission before the Zixrens realized what was happening. As the shuttle carrying them docked with the massive command ship, Benaran caught Dr. Sato's eye. The scientist looked terrified but determined, his hand clutching the innocuous-looking device that could change the course of the war. This was it, the moment of truth. The future of Earth, of the human race, hung in the balance. Benaran took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battle to come. Win or lose, this would be the Resistance's finest hour. Humanity triumphant. The inside of the Zixren command ship was a nightmarish labyrinth of dark, organic-looking corridors and pulsing energy conduits. Benaran, Dr. Sato, and the rest of the captured Resistance team were marched through this alien landscape, surrounded by a phalanx of elite guard soldiers. They were brought to a large, circular chamber, where Zaxxas, the elite guard commander, awaited them. The massive Zixren regarded them with cold, compound eyes, his mandibles clicking in a gesture of contempt. "So, these are the great leaders of the human resistance," he said, his voice a grating buzz. "How pathetic. You really thought you could stand against the might of the Empire." Benaran met his gaze unflinchingly. "We've done more than stand against you," she said. "We've fought you. We've bled you. And now we're going to defeat you." Zaxus laughed, a harsh, chittering sound. "Brave words, mammal, but meaningless. You will be interrogated, you will be broken, and then you will be executed as an example to all who would defy us." But even as he spoke, Dr. Sato was making his move. With a sudden, desperate lunge, he broke free of his captors and activated the device. A high-pitched whine filled the chamber, rising in intensity until it was almost unbearable. The elite guard staggered, their power armor sparking and smoking as the disruptive energies of the device washed over them. Benaran and the others seized their moment, attacking their disoriented captors with a fierce, desperate energy. The battle was joined, human determination pitted against Zixren technology and brute strength. It was a close, bloody affair, but the humans had the advantage of surprise and the disruptive effects of Dr. Sato's device. One by one, the elite guard fell, their armor failing, their inhuman strength no match for human tenacity. Zaxus himself was the last to fall, his head crushed by a blow from Benaran's makeshift weapon. But there was no time to celebrate. They had to reach the ship's power core and complete their mission. Fighting through the confusion and chaos of the crippled ship, they made their way deeper into the vessel. As they reached the central core, a vast, pulsing chamber of eldritch energies, they found themselves faced with a final challenge. A contingent of regular Zixren soldiers, their weapons trained on the humans. But before either side could act, a massive explosion rocked the ship. On the view screen, a scene of utter chaos unfolded. Across the globe, resistance cells were rising up, attacking Zixren bases and installations with a coordinated fury. Without the elite guard to maintain order, the occupation was crumbling. In orbit, Zixren ships were under attack by a ragtag fleet of human vessels, cobbled together from scavenged parts and armed with reverse-engineered Zixren weapons. It was a desperate, audacious assault, born of months of careful planning and preparation. The Zixrens in the core chamber wavered, their resolve crumbling in the face of this unexpected human resurgence. Benaran seized the moment. "It's over," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "Earth is rising against you. Your occupation is finished. Lay down your weapons and surrender, and you will be treated fairly." For a long, tense moment, the Zixrens hesitated. Then, one by one, they lowered their weapons. They had no stomach for a fight, not with their command structure in disarray and their forces under attack on all fronts. Dr. Sato moved to the core, planting his device. "This will overload the core," he said, his voice shaking with exhaustion and elation. "It will destroy the ship and send a pulse that will disable every piece of Zixren technology on Earth." Benaran nodded. "Do it." The device activated, and a blinding white light filled the chamber. The ship shuddered, its very structure coming apart at the seams. Benaran and the others scrambled for the escape pods, dragging their Zixren prisoners with them. They barely made it out before the ship exploded, a miniature sun blooming in the skies over Earth. Across the planet, Zixren machines and weapons failed, their soldiers left powerless and disorganized. It was the turning point. With their technological advantage gone, and their command structure in ruins, the Zixrens could no longer hold Earth. Faced with a resurgent, united humanity, they had no choice but to retreat. In the days and weeks that followed, the Zixren occupation crumbled. Their forces, harried and pursued by human resistance fighters, fled back to the stars, abandoning their dreams of conquest. The cost had been high. Earth's cities lay in ruins, millions had died, and the scars of the occupation would linger for generations. But humanity had proven itself unbreakable, unconquerable. They had looked into the face of galactic domination and had not blinked. In the aftermath, as humanity began to rebuild, Benaran and her fellow resistance leaders were hailed as heroes, the saviors of Earth. But for Benaran, the true hero was the indomitable spirit of humanity itself. "We won because we never gave up," she said in a speech to the United Nations of Earth. "Because even in our darkest hour, we held on to our courage, our determination, and our unity. We showed the galaxy that we will not be subjugated, that we will not be broken. We are human, and we are free." As she spoke, Benaran looked up at the stars, at the infinite expanse of the galaxy. Out there, she knew, the Zixran Empire still loomed, licking its wounds and plotting its revenge. There would be other challenges, other threats to face. But she also knew that humanity would be ready. They had faced the fire and emerged stronger, united, unafraid. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, as one people, one planet, one indomitable force. Earth had been tested, and it had not been found wanting. The age of human galactic expansion was about to begin, and the stars themselves would tremble at their coming. Part 6 word count, 697. Total word count, 5650. And there you have it, a 6-part sci-fi epic of humanity's desperate struggle and ultimate triumph against the Galactic Empire's invasion. I hope you found the story engaging, with relatable characters, exciting action, and a satisfying arc of rising tension and ultimate victory. Let me know if you would like me to modify or expand on any part of the narrative. I aim to create an original story in the style you requested, showcasing themes of human resilience, ingenuity, and unity in the face of an overwhelming alien threat.